Fit Travel Tribe, this is Mike. Welcome back to the show, and thank you for joining us for this episode. Today, we are interviewing Scott and Collette Stohler. If you don't know who they are, you may know them as Roamaroo. And if you don't know who Roamaroo is, you might be living in the 19th century. I'm not going to ruin this episode for you. I want you to listen to it because it's amazing. Scott and Collette are amazing people. They share a ton of insight with us, and it's really impactful when you get a chance to hear their story, but also where they're at today, where they're at in their mind and in their heart and their vision for their platform, which is impacting millions upon millions of people. Again, you can follow them at Roamaroo, Roamaroo, on every platform, their website, on Instagram, and others. They have a really great YouTube channel that's growing rapidly, and like I said, I'm not going to ruin this episode for you because I wanted you to get into it. So without further ado, here we go.
Welcome, Fit Traveler. Thanks for listening in today as we dive into another fun topic where Maryssa and Mike aim to deliver life-giving insights and encourage you to live a healthier, more adventurous lifestyle. Let's get into the show.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. We've got the real OGs today, Roamaroo. Scott and Collette are on the other end. Mike and Maryssa on this end. Guys, Scott, Collette, how are you doing today?
Hey, Mike and Maryssa, we are doing well. How are you?
We're thrilled for this opportunity. Like we said shortly before we started the recording, we're so thankful to have you guys on, and we appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day to join us.
Thank you for having us.
Right on. Maryssa, you want to get kicking? You want to ask our guests?
Yeah, guys, we obviously have been following you guys for quite some time, and we've kind of watched your travels and watched you guys, maintain your fitness and all of those things. But our audience might not know you guys. So if you could just give us a little bit of background, maybe how you guys got started in the world of traveling, and then just a little bit of background of each of you.
All right, so we have been outside of the corporate lifestyle for almost 5 years now, and it all started with a podcast. It was a Tim Ferriss podcast with Rolf Potts, who is the author of Vagabonding. I don't have the exact number or anything, but I bet if you just Googled those two names, it would probably pop up. And Collette came home from work one day and said, let's travel. And we'd always joked about it, after our honeymoon and after long trips, about potentially, spending a long amount of time on the road. And, fast forward a little bit, 2 weeks later, we had our schedule basically set and our flights booked to make a trip around the world. And so it all started with the impetus of just taking basically a gap year, 7 months, wasn't a full year, to travel the world. And then we thought we'd come back and, go back to our normal lives. And it was while we were on the road that we kind of saw other opportunities. We saw businesses starting to evolve. Blogs, YouTubers and vlogs had kind of been out there, but, the term like Instagram influencer, which is still kind of a weird name to have, really, that business model wasn't there. And so it was just, we saw some opportunities and we thought other people have figured out a business from this. Let's see what we can do. And because it matches up with what we like to do, which is creating content, telling stories, and inspiring people. And so it was from that point that we were in, and we were dedicated to trying to figure it out. And so I think it was a lot on Collette when we were in Bali at the end of our entire trip, who said, "Hey, let's do this," and we were set going forward.
I think it was also in Bali. I had a job offer in Los Angeles. And I was backpedaling, and Scott said, if you really like something and love something and want something, you go in full force, and you're backpedaling. What's going on? Mm-hmm. And I knew I had an opportunity to take a risk. I mean, at that point, we really had nothing to lose. We already were living as cheaply as possible on about $150 a day. We had an Excel spreadsheet that Scott created that outlined our budget, and we just thought, why not? Let's take another risk. We already took one. Let's take another. Mm-hmm. And I think we were really creating content before content creation was a thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were traveling and using our 2 to 3 weeks vacation to see the world, create videos, and inspire our friends and family to also travel the world. So I think it was something that was innately in us, and this desire to see the world and connect other people with the world was just something that we always loved to do. there was just not really an outlet for it until social media came around.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And so we are looking at each other like, man, we have a million questions of which direction to go. But I do have a question about, Scott, you mentioned the whole like Instagram influencer, like it's kind of a foreign concept, if you will. How would you guys describe what you guys do today? Is Roamaroo, are you guys full-time Roamaroo? Everywhere you go, people are like, I've seen you guys on TV, on Disney, or on these different television shows, or like, when you guys are working out, and we may get into this in a minute, but like, is everyone asking you travel tips and things like that, or what does your day-to-day look like as Roamaroo?
Yeah, so it is a full-time gig, and you know, the answer is not always the easiest one, but you know, we kind of say we're content creators, and that's kind of what we've been focused on. But we've also been sitting down and trying to identify what our future is going to look like. I give the analogy that, you know, basically we figured out how to swim. We started to swim, and then we stopped and realized, like, where are we swimming? Because what happened was when we were, you know, back to the Bali moment, and we decided to try to figure out a way to make a living from travel and content creation, we figured it out, but we kind of got caught up in the whole process that we forgot the main reason why we started to do it in the beginning. And, you know, a lot of that has to go back to the fact that we decided to travel initially because we wanted to travel. And it's kind of sad because we've seen, you know, several people who have seen what we've done and viewed it the wrong way. You know, you have people who see this whole Instagram famous thing, and they want to be on Instagram and they want to have a following just to have the following. You know, they don't really have a story behind it or a reason behind it. And, you know, I can say that we kind of got caught up at a moment at some of that part, just chasing the dragon in a way. And, you know, we've, over the past few years, really been going back and trying to ground ourselves more and figure out what is it we really want to do? What stories do we want to tell? What people do we want to be involved with? What do we want our life to look like in 5 years, 10 years, you know, on a daily basis, on a long-term basis? And so I think I kind of lost track of the question.
No, I mean, I think you have to think like other people are trying to chase the celebrity aspect of this. And there wasn't a celebrity aspect 5 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago. And you always have to ask, what's your why? What's your reason why you're building this? You have to have a foundation before you build the top floor. So I think when people are saying, oh, I just want to be an influencer, well, what does that even mean?
Right.
Do you want to inspire others to lead healthy, fulfilling lives? Do you want to inspire others to travel the world? What is the reason behind the influence? You can't just say, I want to be an influencer.
Right.
So there still has to be some substance behind that. And I think, I don't know if that's what the original question was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Scott was moving towards.
So I think that's a phenomenal answer, and I really love that you guys started to unpack, you know, something that we we probably thought about maybe getting to toward the end of the show, but you guys are awesome and brought it up early on, is this whole idea of like why you do what you do. So even when Maryssa and I started building our platform, and we had zero, like -5 followers, like people were telling us like, don't do what you're doing. We were for some reason we sat down. We're like, well, we should probably have a vision and a mission, and like a core reason why we're doing what we're doing. And I think that's vitally important because we too had those same urges where we thought, well, man, it would be so great to have our own tribe or our own audience, but somehow we've been humbled along the way to kind of to focus on why we're doing what we're doing at the core of all of the content that we create. So you guys don't have to go into a ton of detail, but have you found some of those answers to the question, Scott, like that you were referring to?
You know, I think it's a continuous process. It is something that we have some answers and we have some guiding principles, and Colette's reminding me of pulling up some notes that we wrote down. We kind of just how you guys had your mission and vision. You know, we have like some pillars and some points that we try to focus on. It actually, you know, going back to when we were, you know, struggling to figure out our voice, it took one of our friends, it actually took multiple times where people came to us and they said, you guys are a couple. And, at the time, no one was on social media as a couple. I mean, I'm not saying that no one was, but it really wasn't that popular.
I don't think the hashtag travel couple existed at the time.
Yes.
It seemed very narcissistic to say, like, oh, we're a couple, like, watch us.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a very hard pill to swallow to think, I'm going to base my life on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless, you're a bit insane or manic, most normal, balanced people say that and be like, you know what, I don't think I really have that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires some friends around you and loved ones to kind of to boost you and say, hey, no, you guys have got something, go after it. There's something different about the story that you're trying to tell, and it's inspiring, and I think you need to pursue that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, that was a turning point. It took time. It took probably a year for us to take that to heart and realize that we can do something different, or we can inspire others.
Yeah. I think that for sure you inspire us as a couple to continue to pursue excellence in not only our fitness and our travel, but also in our relationship. And so if you guys wouldn't mind sharing a little bit maybe about how you met, first of all, but then also how you guys kind of handle that dynamic when you travel, because obviously there are some things that Mike wants to do when we travel that I don't want to do. And I'm sure that, you guys have to kind of work through that same dynamic and how you kind of process and get to an agreement on things like that when you're traveling.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say thank you, because our whole impetus our mission that we've kind of narrowed it down to is that we want to inspire people on 3 pillars, and that's travel, love, and wellness. So the fact that you said that, I'm like, okay, great. Our message is coming through.
It's
so
working.
We appreciate that. Yes. But now to the good stuff, how we met.
Oh, yeah.
We met in Las Vegas.
Yay!
Nice.
Not your typical place to meet, but we met in 2010, so nearly 10 years ago, which is kind of crazy. And Scott was living in Chicago, and I was living in Los Angeles, and we started long distance, which I guess is fitting now, considering how many frequent flyer miles were accrued over the 1.5-year period that we were long distance. But pretty quickly, we decided that we wanted to be in the same city, and we both said I would move to Chicago, Scott would move to Los Angeles, or perhaps we'd both relocate to the New Jersey, New York area where I grew up. And we tried, and then eventually got to the point where I was really loving Los Angeles and getting my footing here. And I asked Scott, would you be willing to move here? And he said yes. So he had, I think, 4 offers?
It was an interesting process because basically, no one wants to interview you unless they find out someone else is interviewing you. And I was striking out, and then one day I got an interview, and it was within like a week. I had a total of 5 interviews, and I got 4 of the offers, and then one of the offers I didn't get because they gave it to someone who had like 10 years more experience. So it was like, it was a good example of where you need to have a bit of tenacity and persistence in trying to accomplish things in life. Mm-hmm. Because so often, we think, oh, that person who is the entrepreneur who hit that home run with that new product, or that overnight success actor or comedian, you never see the sleepless nights that they've had. Mm-hmm. You never see the trouble and mental anguish that they've gone through. And even, in ours, like I don't see us as internally, and when I try to keep my confidence up, I see it as a success. But I also continue to struggle with myself that I want to achieve more. Mm-hmm. And there were countless nights where I struggled to accept the fact of the business that we were going after. I had I don't want to really call them full-on nightmares, but almost nightmares in the fact that I felt like I needed to go back to my old career path. Mm-hmm. Where even though that wasn't there, 6 months, even up to a year after I'd left my job, I felt like I still needed to go back to that original job just to fit the cultural norm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm kind of a detailed person. And so to fit the timeline of how Roamaroo became who Roamaroo is today, so you guys moved to LA together like 2012, 13-ish?
I moved to LA in 2009, and Scott moved in 2011.
Excellent.
11. Okay.
And so I think I read somewhere that you guys started creating content around 2015.
Yeah, we left for our around the world trip, and we started creating content in June 2015. But we decided to turn Roamaroo into a business in January 2016.
Okay. So, and before that, you guys would take trips and things like that. So what I'm looking to unpack is, when we were first asking you guys about how did Roamaroo come about, we heard some of the aha moments. But I wonder if before that aha moment, if you like looking back, you guys kind of noticed that you were on that path. If you had gone on trips and thought, man, it would be really amazing to do this full time. Or you're on a 2-week vacation from work and you're like, man, if we could only figure out a way, and then it clicked. Or if it was that moment when you guys really turned the page and started doing the content creation.
It was two. So the aha moments, it really came to that podcast, and it wasn't that we could make it a business at that point.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to look at the timeline, the first aha moment of let's take a trip was that process soon after that dinner after the podcast and the discussion. We went through a process called fear setting, and basically you just you write down your fears that you have of a decision and the severity and the likelihood, and it allows you to kind of mentally categorize what's the actual risk of deciding A or B. So we went through that, so that gave us the confidence to take the trip, because we realized two things. One, when you look back and you're 70 years old and you think, did I take that trip? Is that the story I want to tell? Or was I the person who talked about it but then decided to take the conservative path and just stuck with the career? That was one driving force.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other driving force was, let's say that we travel for 7 months and then come back to our careers. What's the biggest risk? And we reflected back on the previous year and the actual change that had happened in our career. And we realized not a lot for most people happens in their career over a 1-year time frame.
Right.
And so we thought what we would lose, we would easily catch up through the experience of traveling. So that was the first aha moment. Hey, we can take this trip. But somewhere we started to see that there was an opportunity to make a living through this, just through all of our experiences, interacting with people, and being online and just seeing how people had a different path in life. So that I don't think there was an aha moment where we said we could do it, but Collette just kind of had the confidence to say, let's try. And then over time, opportunities came, and it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of mistakes, but we started to learn what we can do and what makes us better from the business side of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I think what helped too was, Scott was a chemical engineer prior to us leaving the trip, but he still is the ultimate problem solver. Mm-hmm. And I was in production, in TV production and film production, so I understand that landscape and how to tell a story. And so I think if you put those together, plus combine a passion for travel, you have our business. Mm-hmm. And I always, in the back of my mind, dreamed of being like Brooke Burke, Wild on E, but for fitness and travel.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know how to make it happen. I didn't want to go through the traditional route of, going on auditions and waiting tables in Hollywood. I wanted to be the decision maker, which is why I was on the producer, director side of things. So I think now we're able to flex those muscles and do it together, and create this amazing travel content around the world.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So I have one more question on the relationship topic before we get into some of the kind of X's and O's of the things that Maryssa and I love talking about, which are like specific to your nutritional philosophy, what your current exercise regimen looks like, and how you guys stay healthy and fit on the go. But Collette, I could tell that you got really excited when we were asking about the love component of what you guys, where your platform is kind of moving and migrating. And so Maryssa and I, we were in Lake Tahoe this weekend and at a couples retreat. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. It was really awesome to work on our relationship and see other couples that had been married for 20, 40. There were some couples that have been married for 50 years, and we're still going to retreats to work on their relationship. And so our audience is a ton of fit couples. I'm sure that they want to know how you guys have noticed your relationship grow and morph as you guys have gone through these things. You know, some of the struggles, like Scott, you mentioned the kind of getting caught up in the growing of the platform, kind of paraphrasing there, but also, just spending a ton of time together, like working and working toward your goals together. How has your relationship grown through that process?
I think it's grown exponentially because we've had to create something together. And from the get-go, we inspired each other intellectually. I remember creating products together and emailing back and forth with product ideas when Scott was living in Chicago and I was living in Los Angeles. So we always had this innate spark of creativity between the two of us from the moment that we met. And I think as we created a business together, we learned more and more about how the other person works. I mean, both in the business sense and also just in kind of like a love language sense. I mean, you have to be able to speak to this person the way that they understand and vice versa. So I think, all relationships come down to communication, and that's no different in business or in love. But when you couple them together, you really, really have to communicate about your goals, your dreams, what you're feeling on a daily basis, and be proactive with it. Just like you went to a couples retreat, we go to couples therapy because we want to be proactive with what we're feeling, what our hopes and dreams are, like I said, and make sure that we stay on the right path. I mean, people have coaches in athletics that lead them, even if they know how to lift that weight or run that 100-meter dash. They still have someone that tweaks and fine-tunes so that they can be the best person they can be. We want that in our love as well. So we like to fine-tune things.
That's awesome.
That's so good.
There was a book that I read, actually, while Colette and I were still dating, and the analogy this author gave was, you don't wait until your car's engine is completely locked up before you get the oil change. You go and get it changed on a regular basis. So why would you wait until you're borderline divorced before you go see a therapist? And that was something that really resonated and stuck with me. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people they feel like going to a counselor is so taboo, when the example that Colette gave is so spot on that I think if they viewed it that way, they would be more accepting and be willing to, go to a therapist together.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's such like it is taboo to say that I go to therapy, whether an individual. I think it's beneficial for absolutely everyone, individuals and people in a relationship. I mean, we went to premarital counseling so that we could talk about, the blueprint of our lives and our marriage and what we want that to look like. And if it doesn't align in one sense, how can we communicate or meet in the middle somewhere so that we can really construct the best story for ourselves and both be happy with that.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Maryssa wants to get into the nutrition topic, but just a kind of an off-script question. So we have met, and this weekend was kind of a great example, but we've met some folks that like to be very, very maybe conservative in their messaging. They don't want to kind of ruffle feathers. They don't want to go against cultural norms. And then we've met other couples that are like in your face and everywhere in between. So would it be safe to say that maybe part of your message is helping to break down those, quote unquote norms about like leaving corporate America, going and traveling the world, living a travel lifestyle, doing things proactively in your relationship?
I think it's, we actually have talked about this in the past, and it was actually my mom who kind of helped guide me in a bit. She's like, I love what you're doing, but she said, I think you got to realize that a lot of people maybe don't want to travel the world or quit their jobs. So it's more simplifying in that taking the risk. And, maybe that risk is as simple as asking for a raise. Maybe it's trying to take that risk. Maybe it's even just taking like a simple class that you thought, I'd be a little too scared to do. Or as big as a risk as deciding to say, hey, I'm going to take a gap year, or I'm going to, switch careers. So it's just trying to get out of your comfort zone and pursue a better life, whatever that might be for yourself.
Absolutely. I think that's a lot of why we started doing what we were doing, because we watched our friends and our family members just get stuck in their routine and just do the same thing over and over and over. And then you come back from your weekend and you're like, well, I just laid around, or I'm not using my vacation days. And we were like, no, we want more for you guys. And we started following people like you and getting inspired and those kind of things. And so that's kind of why we started doing what we started doing. And we really love the health and fitness side. So we really appreciate that you guys also value your wellness, because we watch other travelers who just kind of, obviously the food is great when you travel. And we watch other travelers who just kind of get caught up in that.
You have to indulge once in a while.
Yeah, and get caught up in the fact that they're traveling and they can't keep up with their fitness because they're so busy. And so can you guys kind of talk to us about how you guys got started on your fitness journey and how you kind of keep up with your wellness and fitness while you travel?
So, Maryssa, I want to just, before we jump into fitness, just one more point about, inspiring life.
Yes.
Once you start living a passionate life and you start looking for others who are doing the same thing, it is nearly impossible to talk to people who just live on that 9 to 5 mundane rat race lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people can't have a corporate job and have a passionate life. I have a very close friend who, he goes to his 9 to 5 job and he realizes that it's more of just a means to an end. He understands that it doesn't fulfill his creativity, so he gets his creativity outside of work, and he's doing all sorts of projects. If it's artwork or woodworking, he's always doing something interesting and intriguing. So he's still a passionate person, even though he has what would be known as a normal 9 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm.
It's those people who just really live for the weekend that once you realize you can get more out of life, it's hard to really have a relationship with that person and have an in-depth discussion.
Oh, yeah. We relate to that a lot. Yeah.
We can relate.
And to piggyback on that, and then we'll get into fitness, I swear.
No, this is good.
Scott and I were really blessed with families that inspired us and supported us and kind of were our biggest cheerleaders. And not everyone has that. And I think it's important to be that positive influence in someone's life. And if you can find that on social media or through a video or through a podcast and inspire someone to take a leap and really say, hey, I'm rooting for you and I'm rooting for your best interest, it's really powerful. And it wasn't always there for a lot of people. So I think if we can be that for someone else, it's really gratifying.
Yeah, of course. And by the way, if there's anything that you guys want to expound and elaborate on, please interrupt us, because for this episode, we're here to learn about you guys, learn from you guys, and share what you guys have to say with our audience. And we certainly want to maximize that time. They hear from us enough.
Yeah, we don't. It's good. Keep going. This is great. But
so the fitness question. Do you mind going back to that?
Yeah, so it's just we were wondering how you guys got started in your fitness journeys, if it was something that you were very into when you were at home and then you just transitioned it into travel naturally, or if it's something that you kind of started while you were on the road, and then how you maintain that now that you travel pretty much full time.
So this is very
weird because Scott's laughing.
This is something you would have to do a lot of research to find out, but Collette is on P90X2. She gave me a list.
She's is she in one of the episodes that's back in the back?
She is in 2 or 3 episodes.
Oh my gosh, we're going to find it and link it in the show notes.
Yeah, so P90X2, section, 3 different ones.
The better one, got it.
So what was funny was when we met, at the time, my friends and I said, hey, we should do P90X. It was right when the craze was coming out. I had done some triathlons before, but it really got burnt out. And there were 3 or 4 of us who all decided to do P90X. And we did it. So we just finished it when I met Collette, and it was the funniest thing to bring up. Because when I actually met Collette, she was with 3 or 4 of her girlfriends. And I have to set this picture because it sounds very cheesy if I don't say this first. All of the girls had 6-packs. And I say that because one of the first things I said to Collette was, are you girls fitness moms? And it was not a pickup line. It was an honest question. and then basically we ended up, it was, they all ran track together. But then Collette and I started talking about P90X at some point. And she said, I forget her words. She definitely embellished a little bit on her responsibilities. But she said something about, like, I tell, his name's Tony, right?
Tony Horton.
Yeah, she's like, I tell Tony what to do on the show. And I was like, what?
Hi, Tony.
And so that was kind of, I guess, the spark of our fitness path.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll let Collette kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up running track. I ran Division I track at the University of Pennsylvania, and then was a competitive Olympic weightlifter and qualified for the Olympic trials in 2008, which is a really long time ago now. But then Scott and I started CrossFit together in 2012, and it was a way for us to connect together
Mm-hmm.
and have fun and play. And the next year, we actually both qualified for the CrossFit regionals, CrossFit Games regionals.
As a team.
As a team,
Mm-hmm.
not as individuals. Yeah. And so we've been CrossFitting together ever since. And it's just become, I mean, I think sports have always been a part of our lifestyle and who we are and how we've made friends. And the CrossFit community is amazing around the world. I mean, we've CrossFitted in probably 20 to 25 countries, and you drop into a class, you meet locals, you meet expats, and you find out things that you wouldn't typically find in, say, like a travel and leisure or even on YouTube, and you find the little local spots, you make friends, and you get a really killer workout.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. So I mean, I think it's a way for us to mentally connect, to physically connect, and it's part of our everyday lives. We love it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you guys are on the go and you work out, is it exclusively looking for a CrossFit box or a CrossFit gym, or do you guys ever do like a CrossFit workout on like in a hotel room or just outside somewhere?
We do both, and so we'll generally, depending on the time frame and the location, the easiest thing is we'll try to find some type of CrossFit gym. But that can get expensive if you're always dropping in. So if the hotel has a decent gym, we'll just work out at the hotel and we kind of make up our own workout. And then I've just recently started getting into climbing, which if you guys haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. I think it's probably one of the most addicting things out there. And so that's something now that I've started to add into the rotation to kind of get myself out of the normal pattern of just going to the same gym every single day and to kind of challenge myself differently.
That's awesome. And Scott, I had written down, when you talk about rock climbing, are you looking for a rock climbing gym? Is it like a fun kind of leisurely thing to do? Or are you talking about sport climbing? Are you going to find a bare rock somewhere where you're just bouldering up the rock?
As of now, it's just indoors, but with plans and hopes to move it outdoors.
That's awesome.
That's really
And
cool.
Collette, were you going to add something before I jumped in?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we love the gym and love working out, but when we travel, we also like to get outside and go hiking. I mean, we hiked Half Dome at Yosemite, and we've taken some backroads trips, which are cycling trips around the world. And, I mean, we like to get outside and get as active as possible, but also we like that high-intensity workout as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can relate a lot to that, too. And so do you usually stick to a routine, or do you guys just kind of make it up on the fly?
I know that Collette is much more religious with her schedule of working out.
Mm-hmm.
When we're on the road, it's kind of we just have to use what we have. So it depends on the hotel, and if there's a CrossFit gym, if we're dropping into a class, we just listening to whatever the coach says. But when you talk about the actual amount or number of times working out, if we're gone for a week, I have a lower number of times that I'll target, whereas Collette is almost, every day she's doing even something just little.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I might, if we're gone for 4 or 5 days, I might just say, hey, I'm going to try to get 2 workouts in because I know that I'll get workouts before I leave, and then I'll try to get a workout as soon as I get back at our normal gym.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So one thing that we like to unpack on this topic is for us, like the 4 of us having this conversation, it's kind of something we talk about in passing. It's like, oh, so how many workouts are you going to do this week? Whereas for some of our audience, it's like, I'm still trying to figure out how to ingrain that in my language at home, let alone like if I go on vacation. And so what's the trick for you guys? Do you think it's because that's just how it's always been, like Collette with your athletic background, and both of you guys, your interest in staying fit? Or maybe what's a tip or a strategy that you guys could offer to someone who isn't there yet, where they go on a 4 or 5 day trip, and that's 4 or 5 days away from their fitness goals.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that you have to find, I mean, everyone always says you have to make it a lifestyle. It's like, that's great, but what's an actionable tip to actually do that?
Yes.
And I think you really have to find something that you genuinely enjoy. And that, not everyone likes to work out, but they might not also have found something that they like. So it could be something like, I like to go on a walking tour when I get to a new destination. It could be, I like to go dancing and go to a salsa club when I'm in, Cuba. And that's a workout in itself as well. So find something that you like. If you're not a gym rat, don't force yourself to be a gym rat. Another tip I would say is do something for 10 minutes. You can move for 10 minutes no matter where you are or what you're doing. Whether you're in a hotel room and you want to do some downward dogs, you want to just stretch, you want to do air squats, you want to do burpees like a psychopath like me, whatever it might be, just do it for 10 minutes. And usually after 10 minutes, you already feel better about yourself. You feel accomplished. You're all warmed up and ready to go. And you might even go for another 10 minutes or another 10 minutes. But just commit to that 10 minutes of movement. And no matter, that's even at home too. I think it's important to get moving in the morning. Scott and I try to go for walks in the morning and get the heart rate going and blood pumping. And if you can get outside, even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, just commit to a little bit. You don't have to, like when we're at home, a CrossFit class is 1 hour. When I'm traveling, I don't want to take a whole hour to work out because I want to go explore a destination or check out a new restaurant. So I give myself, 10 to 30 minutes and I say, hit it hard.
That's good.
Something that I would add with, I was exactly going to say the same thing with like kind of the 10-minute bite-sized piece. I think it's setting realistic goals. If someone is going for that week, let's say long weekend or week vacation, Mexico, it's unrealistic to think that all of a sudden you're going to go from not training or not working out to running 5 miles a day. Depending on your fitness level, it's almost always going to be below what you've been doing in the past. So if you're not working out at all and you're going on vacation, but you want to do something, start with just saying, I'm going to try to walk 2 miles a day. And your phone easily tracks that. And so you can set that. There are apps. I actually have that as something on my daily schedule. There's an app called Streaks, and it just tracks if I walk 2 miles a day. Because I found that when I was at home, I would come from the bedroom, go to the office, go to the gym, and that's it. And I was barely walking anything at all.
Plus, when things are gamified, I think it makes it a little more fun.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, like how I said, I try to be realistic in my expectations of working out. If I say I'm going to do 2 workouts, like that's my goal, then I try to hit that. And then anything else is, in my mind, extra credit. So it's kind of allowing yourself to hit your goal in the fact of whatever that might be. If it's walking a mile a day, if it's, hey, I'm going to actually go to the gym and work out for 10 minutes 2 times during this vacation. And then the other times, just enjoy it. Because the last thing you want to do is mentally beat yourself up on the fact you think, oh, I should be working out or I shouldn't. I think it gives you much more happiness when you set out clear guidelines and expectations so that then you can de-stress and accept, hey, this is my time to have fun and this is my time to relax and enjoy that 10 minutes that I did those 2 workouts and I'm set. I don't need to do anything else because I'm only here for 1 week.
Absolutely. And I think, just like you said, setting yourself up with the realistic expectations is so key. And I think that when people think of us as far as, fit travel, they think that we're super rigid on our workouts and we never eat off of our super strict diet plans whenever we are traveling. And obviously that's not the case. We're going to travel to experience things. And so you guys already hit that fitness aspect pretty hard and kind of talked about your plan with that. But can you kind of go over your nutrition philosophy? Obviously, if you're like us, you're, indulging a little bit with...
from time to time.
Yeah, with the food that you like to eat while you're traveling. And so can you talk about how you balance your nutrition while you're traveling?
Yeah, and any principles. Our audience loves principle-based nutrition content. So if there are any, rules or general guidelines that you guys try to stick to, or if you just have, a general philosophy that you'd love to share, we would love to hear that.
Let's give me a look that I need to start. I think so I'll start with, when we're at home, it's very easy, and I think that's most people, if they're trying to lock down a diet, or a quote lifestyle, it's very easy to do it when you control all of the variables and factors. What's tough is when you get on the road and your flight's delayed, you're jet lagged, and the only thing you can grab is McDonald's. So I think back to a little bit of kind of how I was categorizing like workout time and non-workout time. I think same thing with eating and your diet. I think it's when you're on the road, food is the way to a culture. If you're visiting Mexico City, you're going to be going out, you're going to be eating tacos and burritos. And so you need to allow yourself to go do that. If you're in Italy, you're going to be eating pasta. So maybe you're not eating pasta every meal of the day, and maybe you're actually not even eating every meal of the day. One of the things that I'll do often while we're traveling is just skip breakfast, because often in a hotel, the breakfast one isn't really that good. I'm probably not working out that much, so I don't need the calories, and I'm probably backing into my calories with a more enjoyable meal like a pasta or something like that. I think the other thing is try to when you're looking at indulgent foods, make it something that you do really want to indulge in. There's a lot of easy ways to sneak in bad food and bad calories. And I think for me, probably one of the easiest or toughest things is just fries. Everybody loves fries, and they come with almost every meal in the United States, especially for lunch. So that's a very, my tips and principles is when you're on the road, skip breakfast, just have a coffee, no sugar or anything. You can do black or cream, but stay away from the carbs, at least in the morning. And then, in the lunchtime, try to stay away from those fries and anything that's, really caloric. And if you can, stay away from, we try to stay away from as much carbs as possible, but at least until dinner time when we're on the road.
And don't be afraid of good fats. If you can get some olive oil or coconut oil, avocado, things that are going to fill you up, satiate you, and are also delicious. I think that's really helpful. I always bring snacks everywhere I go. I bring protein bars, which are probably the easiest to travel with. I also travel with these little fat fuel packets. I used to travel with bulletproof packets, but I think they discontinued them. So it's basically a bulletproof coffee, which is MCT oil, grass-fed butter, and then you mix it in with your coffee, and it makes it this delicious latte, frothy type coffee that has plenty of fat, which satiates you and slows down the absorption of the caffeine at the same time. So Scott likes to skip breakfast, but I like to have the bulletproof coffee usually.
Awesome.
Even when we're traveling.
Sounds so good.
That does sound good.
We're ready for it.
So, out of respect for our time, because we're kind of closing in toward the end of this episode, before we do have some kind of like rapid fire questions that our audience is always curious about. But before we go too much further, we've been talking about all of these tips and recommendations. Collette, I believe you have an awesome book available, Passport to Wellness. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it is Passport to Fitness.
Passport to Fitness. That's what I had written down. I think we were on the wellness topic.
All good. It's a passport to wellness as well, so you're right on.
There you go, yeah.
But I talk about, finding the best destinations for your travels. If you're a ski bunny, or if you love to climb mountains, or if you're a hiker, I really outline where you should go based on your quote-unquote fitness flavor. I also give you a comprehensive fitness plan with 5 anytime, anywhere on the go workouts. Tony Horton would be so proud. And it's just a really good overall passport to letting the world be your gym. I have, at the time, there were workout DVDs, which aren't really as popular anymore, but I also have tips for which YouTubes to watch for fitness, because that's a great way to stay fit on the road. Is if you have a Wi-Fi connection, open up your phone or your computer, go on YouTube, type in 30-minute yoga or 30-minute HIIT or whatever type of workout you want, and you can find a lot on the internet. So this is just kind of a helpful guide to staying fit while you're traveling.
Awesome.
So is there anything else that you guys are working on? Any other resources and tools? We're certainly going to link your website, roamaroo.com, in the show notes. But anything in particular that you would want to direct our audience of fit couples too that could really benefit them and help them on their journey to becoming more fit and traveling more often?
Something that we've been kind of focusing more on is just our YouTube channel and a lot of the content. And we have a lot of stuff that's in the funnel right now that is going to be more, self-actualization. We don't really have a lot of fitness on that. Colette usually posts a lot of the fitness stuff on her fitness page, which is Intuitive Athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have, if you go on Intuitive Athlete, and that's on Instagram, I have a lot of on-the-go workouts, hotel room workouts where, think of when you're traveling, think of it as a creative opportunity. You don't always have access to a gym. It might be cold out and you don't want to go for a run. But in your hotel room, you have a bed that you could do step-ups on. You have a suitcase that you could do thrusters or rowing. You have a chair that you could do dips on. You have plenty right at your fingertips that you can do in basically, a 6x6 space. And it's kind of fun to get creative with it. Mm-hmm. So if you ever need on-the-go workouts, check out Intuitive Athlete.
We were actually just in Saudi Arabia, and Colette had to do that because women are not allowed to work out in the same gym as men.
Oh, wow.
And the other thing was the women's gym didn't open till 10 a.m., I think.
Yeah.
And we had the rest of our day was busy. And so I can remember the look of frustration when she called downstairs and asked, hey, where's the women's gym? And they said, no, it doesn't open until 10. And so she just had to work out in the hotel room every day for that.
Oh.
You have to adapt.
That's right.
But that's good. It's a lot better for you to adapt than to make excuses and just be like, well, I guess I'm not working out today. and so it's awesome that you guys have that ingrained in that initiative.
It doesn't sound like that's in your blood to say, well, can't work out today.
Not exactly.
It's more in my blood than it is Colette.
That's good.
Hey, one quick question, guys. I meant to ask earlier. Do you guys still compete? Are you guys on any CrossFit teams now?
No. I mean, yeah, it's just more just the social life and the fitness life. But, I've had back injuries and then also with our traveling and everything, we've been in and out of the gym. So it just doesn't fit us at this point in our life.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, I think we thought about, or at least I thought about maybe doing a CrossFit Open this year and being a part of the team. But we were actually in Saudi Arabia, and I wouldn't have been able to do the Open anyway because there was no, at least now, women are not allowed to go to CrossFit gyms there.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yes.
It's definitely interesting.
Wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. But yeah, we love it for the community aspect and just to keep us living healthy lives.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing everything. Marissa's going to kind of close us out with a couple of rapid-fire questions, and then we'll wrap up the combo.
Yeah. So you guys have been to a ton of countries. How many is it now?
70, 80-ish, somewhere
I've
around
been
there.
to 80.
Oh my gosh, you guys are incredible.
That's
so what is one location that you recommend that everyone needs to visit before it gets too late? For example, we were on a glacier a little bit ago, and they were telling us that the glaciers are all melting, and people need to go and experience this one. This one was in New Zealand. And so what is a place that you guys have been that is kind of phasing out that you think people should go to?
Well, I was going to say the Aeolian Islands in Italy. It's they're an archipelago off the coast of Sicily, and there's no airport. You have to get there by boat, and it is La Dolce Vita at its finest. It's what you imagine Italy to be, with these amazing, vast vineyards and not many tourists and delicious food and beautiful beaches and no tourists. I mean, you don't find that on the Amalfi Coast anymore, unfortunately. So the secret is going to get out sooner or later, and I think, or it. I'm hesitant to say it because I want it to stay pristine, but I trust that you all will practice responsible travel.
Yeah.
Keep it a secret.
I'm not going to give a destination. I'm just going to give a mindset. We both actually talked about the Aeolian Islands before this, but I was looking through some old footage of Colette and I's it was actually before we even started doing Roamaroo, and I sent her a note with a video, and I said, remember when we used to travel just to travel and to experience things? And it's kind of sad when you look at society where people are just traveling for the photos.
Right.
And I think, yes, there are plenty of destinations that people need to get out there and see. But I'm not saying you can't take some gorgeous photos, but just remember the entire reason why you're in a location and take that, take some time, more than just the 30 seconds after you've taken a photo. Really enjoy it and be a true traveler and not just a quote unquote Instagrammer or photographer.
Right.
That's so good.
I appreciate you sharing that, Scott, because we've gone to a couple places where it's so beautiful that we don't have the vocabulary to explain how it feels to be there. And so people ask us like, "Oh, how was it?" I think because they're looking for that photo response. They just want to hear or just kind of see. And our response is like, you got to go on your own. You have to go experience it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And someone who might be listening might say, well, you guys are always taking videos and photos. And we are, and we do. But there are also trips that we take and we don't. And we do it just for us. And like we took a trip down to Mexico, and the two of us were very set that this was just a vacation. We were just going to enjoy it. And, we snapped some Instagram stories here and there when they were funny and they fit. And then there was another spot where we recently went and we did the same thing. And so we have to balance ourselves in that, because it's part of our life and it's part of our job, but we need to also be able to vacation for ourselves.
Awesome. Yeah. And going along those lines, what is the top travel/relationship tip you would recommend to our audience of couples?
It can be either or a combination of the two.
You've really thrown a curveball to Collette. I think I can remember we were asked this a long time ago, and it wasn't the most inspiring answer, unfortunately. So, but I think when you are I can tell you if you are doing some international travel with a significant other, a few things to keep in mind. One, if you're going through jet lag, you guys, it would be best if you try to focus and get on the same sleep schedule. So Collette and I, whenever we get on the plane, we talk about when we're going to try to sleep, when we're going to try to stay up, when we're going to drink coffee, so that you don't have one person who, when you get to your location, who's ready to run and go tour, while the other one's like, hey, I'm ready to go to sleep. And also, even when you get to location, after you're there for a day or two, if someone's trying to nap, just lay down with them. You'll be surprised at how that can kind of alleviate a lot of the stress and issues of jet lag.
We learned that the hard way, of course.
Yeah.
So take it from us.
And then the other thing of relationships is do little nice things for each other when you're on the road. There's a lot of frustration you have, even if you're in a nice hotel. You're not in your house and you're not in your room, so things are going to be out of place. So try to just whatever you can to make the other days better. And if both of you guys are doing that, then you're not going to run into any arguments or hiccups that you can control. You're going to have issues from, let's see, planes being delayed or your hotel reservation getting canceled or whatever it might be. But if the two of you are unified in kind of your plan and your communication, it'll go a lot better.
I think communicating ahead of time what your goals and how you, for the trip and how you envision it, and try to align with one another. That way, when you get there, there's not a surprise that, oh, you wanted to go hiking the whole time? Well, I wanted to go explore the culinary scene. So just have a good understanding and communication before you embark on the trip.
Yeah, that's great. Last question, guys, and we'll close out here. So what's coming next for you guys? What do you have on the horizon as far as trips and anything else you want to share?
We have, with the holidays around the corner, it's just a lot of family travel. We have a road trip to San Luis Obispo, and I think we have one to Arizona. Or is that?
Yeah, we'll be in California and Arizona and New York. A lot of stateside stuff. And then I just sent Scott an Excel spreadsheet today about where should we go next year. So that is more big picture international thinking of goal destinations and stories you want to tell.
I don't know if she looked at my responses yet.
Oh, I didn't.
But she wrote down all these countries, and I wrote down in the wintertime, go to a mountain to ski for every single week. And in the summertime, I put go hike a mountain.
That's
so
hilarious.
I don't know if she likes my answers for that.
That's awesome.
That's a good story, though.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You heard it here first.
Yes, it's perfect. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
We'll watch for it.
Well,
we don't have a lot of travel planned. Last year we were on the road nonstop this time of year, and we realized that it just wouldn't work for us. So we've been trying to slow down and also travel more for ourselves and travel more. What we find is going to bring the passion back out and tell the stories.
Yeah.
So it won't be as frequent. We're hoping to improve the quality, not necessarily the quantity.
That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate that, guys. Just to echo something from before, you guys could be doing anything with your time for the last hour. Hopefully, it was a little bit entertaining, but we super appreciate your time and your energy and all of your great responses. We're gonna kind of sign off here. Are there any last comments or any little bit of feedback that you want to offer our audience before we sign off?
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility that I am going to allow Collette to go first. No, I'll go. I said it a little bit before, and it's what we are trying to focus on is inspiring people to take a risk, and it's to take a risk to improve their lives. And it doesn't necessarily mean taking a trip around the world. If that's what you're going for, then do it. Set it up. There's a lot of ways to do it, a lot of levels to do it. People can backpack for dollars a day, or you could travel, 5-star luxury for, hundreds, $1,000s a day. Depending on your budget, the world's your oyster. Mm-hmm. But if it may come down to, hey, I'm just trying to make ends meet, and I'm kind of struggling day to day, sometimes it's trying to take that first step. If it's a fitness step or that relationship step, Collette uses the term, or often use the example of, like, tell that person you love them, or ask them out on a date. Maybe it's some people, for their fitness journey, it's just going for a walk. It's that first step. And so it's get out there and kind of expose yourself. There's a quote that I always like to talk about that is called "The Man in the Arena," which is actually Theodore Roosevelt's quote. And a lot of people are afraid to kind of put themselves out there. And I'm not going to quote the entire thing, but it's summarizes basically to it's not the critic who counts, or the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. It's the doer of the deeds, the man on the stage, the man on the arena who deserves all the credit. And so often you should think about that if you are taking a risk, and if you are deciding to put yourself out there. A lot of people, like you guys just gave us an example of how, you said we have negative followers and we have people telling us to stop doing what we're doing. People are always going to be pulling you back to do the status quo. Mm-hmm. And that's because they're afraid that they're ashamed of taking a risk themselves.
It brings up stuff for the other person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so if you're taking a big risk that is different from the cultural norms, no matter what, people are going to be resistant to that. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's not people close to you. Hopefully it's people that you can cut ties with. And you probably will have to do that. So get out there, take that risk, take that step, and just pursue your passions.
Yeah, I would say just pick one thing that scares you in this next week. Everyone that's listening, just pick one thing. It could be big or it could be small. But start to write out what that fear is. What's the likelihood of that fear occurring? And what would you do if it did happen? Mm-hmm. And then go do it. I would challenge you to go take, and if you are too nervous, do a small, calculated, smart risk. And let us know how it goes. Go on our Instagram and let us know how it goes. And we are there to support you guys in all of your risk taking.
Absolutely.
Well, not all of it, but the smart
the smart risk taking. Yeah. They're going to be like, Scott and Collette told me this was fine.
All the competitive people are like, yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Well, guys, once again, thank you so much for your time. We wish you the absolute best, and we'll definitely be following you guys on your next adventures.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Our audience is going to get so much out of this call. I mean, you guys really shared so much about your journey, and we appreciate it so much. So thank you.
Well, Maryssa and Mike, thank you so much for having us.
Here at Two Fit Travelers, we have a mission to add value to you. If we've impacted you in any way, please consider sharing this episode with a friend or family member that could use an encouraging word. Your support means the world to us, and we thank you for listening. We'll look forward to speaking with you on the next episode. Stay adventurous and be well.
Hey guys, thanks so much again for listening to this episode. And if you want to stay in the know with all things Fit Travel, make sure you subscribe to our email list and check out our exclusive Fit Travel Tribe Facebook group. We love you guys.